And it's another Friday, so that means it's time for another Radio Classics interview presented by Alabama One Credit Union. I'm Roger Hoover of the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Alabama One Credit Union, they've been voted Tuscaloosa's best credit union and mortgage lender. Of course, Alabama One offers low-rate auto, mortgage, and business loans, plus protection for it all with Alabama One Insurance. Visit any of their 9 local branches or check them out online at alabama1.org. Alabama One, a proud supporter of Crimson Tide Classics. Well, over the last few weeks, we've been going through these classic radio broadcasting. Coming up on Saturday on some radio stations across the state, you'll be able to hear the 2010 BCS National Championship game. It was played at the Rose Bowl. It was Alabama against Texas, and one of the captains of that team for the Crimson Tide was cornerback Javier Arenas, and he joins me now via Skype. Javier, roll tide, man. Good to see you. How's everything going?
Roll tide, man. It's good to see you as well. Everything going pretty smooth, slow, like with everyone else, but it's been a good opportunity to spend quality time with the right people.
Yeah, certainly. Hopefully you've had some good time with your family. And, of course, you're still with the Alabama football program as an analyst. What have the last few weeks been like during what would normally be one of your busier times of the year with spring practice?
Yeah, man, it's just been you have to be kind of innovative in terms of how to get something out of the spring, So, we were kind of pounding the Zoom meetings, meeting with the guys. And I think it was very effective. I think spring wasn't a waste. So it's been a whole bunch of meetings and just kind of being innovative in terms of how to get guys workouts and just help them continue to be productive during a time like this,
And, of course, Coach Saban is such a good leader. How have you seen him being a leader over the last few weeks, having to meet remotely like this?
Yeah. Say it again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, with Coach Saban, everyone praises his leadership skills. How have you seen him be a leader during this pandemic?
That's a real good question. I've seen him not change his pace, if you will. Some people I think are kind of stopping their tracks and like, how do we go from here? This is kind of unfamiliar territory for everybody. But he was like, look, right before we went on spring break, which was we had one practice. I can't remember the exact date, but then we were to go on spring break and come back and get straight to work. He was starting to plan how can we be effective through these Zoom phone calls and how can we set it up and how do we want to attack it in terms of what plays to put in and what to install. So he just kept rolling. Nothing slowed down really for him.
Last night was a really busy night for the Crimson Tide in terms of the first round of the NFL Draft. 4 Alabama players selected in the first 15 picks of the draft. Did you have a good time last night watching the draft and seeing so many of our guys picked so early?
I did. It's becoming a norm a little bit, but it was good. It's good to see the tradition still holding up. Nowadays the tradition is putting guys in the first round, giving guys an opportunity to extend their career after college football. So it was deserved by the guys who's up next. It was good to see.
Of course, you do a lot of work with the defensive backs, and I have to imagine it won't be long tonight until we hear the names called of Xavier McKinney, Trayvon Diggs, just so many guys, Jared Maiden, Shaheem Carter. This is a really talented group that over the next couple of days, we're going to see their names called too, I imagine.
Yeah, and I honestly, I thought I would hear a couple names from the secondary yesterday. Was a little disappointed when I didn't. I talked to one of my guys who's a scout with the Jets, and he called me yesterday. He asked, he said, out of nowhere, he said, Javi, you on the clock. 15th pick in the first round. Are you taking Trayvon Diggs? And of course, yeah, I'm taking Trayvon Diggs. And so with that phone call, I thought it would be a real good shot, for Trayvon to be taken, with that pick by New York. But it's all about what the team needs. Didn't get taken. X didn't get taken. If I'm a team, I'm taking those guys in the first round. No questions asked, man. And but that only leads you to believe that they're up next. Shaheem Carter as well, man.
Yeah, he's a player.
Can't leave him. Yeah, ball player.
Well, it's certainly going to be exciting to see those names called as we look to the future for those guys in the National Football League. But on this show that we do, we really look at the past, and we'll take the time machine all the way back to when you were a high school senior. What led you to choose the University of Alabama?
The time machine go back that far, man?
Well, we can get it there, I think so. Maybe it needs an oil change, but we'll get it back there.
Well, it was more of an opportunity for me. Because I wasn't highly recruited, I was looked over. When I had that interception off of Tim Tebow in the SEC championship, I can't remember the announcer, but he he said, and I quote, the guy from Florida who no one wanted. And that was the case, man. So it was more so I was recruiting Bama opposed to them recruiting me. And then once Proto went down and unfortunately, had that nasty injury, that sadly enough, and, gave me an opportunity to come here as a punt returner. That was all. And then I kind of, took it from there. But it's been an opportunity of a lifetime for me. And it still is to this day, having the opportunity to coach with the guys.
You had a lot of memorable punt returns in your time with the Crimson Tide. Just overall, in a kind of a football sense, what's the key to a successful punt return, especially taking one to the house?
Mentality. Being back there with Jalen Waddle, trying to give him. You can't coach that position nowadays. All you can do is teach him what's important back there, and what's important back there is making decisions and not thinking too much. You can't think too much back there because nothing will ever happen the way that you plan it to happen back there. It's impossible. The kick can be off or whatever the case may be, but I think that's the key to it. I think just having that mentality of I'm taking this to the house regardless, fearless mentality, and making good decisions, right? Because if it's a bad ball, you don't want to risk not possessing the ball and giving your team the ball back. Man, it's no worse feeling than being out there on defense, and it takes so much to stop a good offense. Then you go back there and you muff a punt, and you got Rolando McClain, Dante Hightower, like, what's up, man? Like, look, it's tough. You got to make good decisions, though. You have to make good decisions. I think that's the key to it.
Of course, you were at Alabama during the coaching change to Coach Saban, and what really changed first once he took over and started to get his system in place?
You weed out the weak guys. You weed out not necessarily who's not the ball player, because we had a lot of good ball players that wasn't fit for his mentality and his style. But you figured out who really wanted it, because it was very tough when he first came in, and you obviously had to have a lot of ability, but you had to be able to sustain, and you had to be able to overcome a lot of things to kind of prove that you was worthy enough to be out there. And if whoever was left formed the championship team that you saw in 2009. So I think it was just kind of it was a gatekeeper type deal when he first got here. All right, who's going to help us? Who's going to be the guys that push this program forward from this point on? Who fits the mold? That we're kind of demanding, and that's the feel that you got when he first got here. Like, am I good enough? Not just for him, but just to fit this mold that he's bringing, which is a real tough, cutthroat mentality is what you need.
Of course, any coaching staff, once they take over, they need some player leaders to step up. And one of the guys that, of course, we know really well on the radio side of the Crimson Tide Sports Network is one of your old teammates, Rashad Johnson. He and I even did some draft stuff last night. Just what did he mean to you? He was a captain in 2008, part of that team that really helped turn things around, and we've seen dominant seasons from Alabama ever since.
He always, I don't know if he even noticed, but he always kind of led me. And he led by when we wasn't on the football field playing against LSU, and he was saving my behind, picking a 7 route off from Brandon LaFell to win the game. If it wasn't that wasn't the setting. It was during a time like this, downtime, when we'll go run hills and just work on coming out of our breaks as efficient and as quick as possible. I don't know if he know, but that kind of stuck with me, and that still stick with me to this day. I realized at that point, I'm like, he's a normal guy just like me. I'm a normal guy in the sense if I'm too small, they say. He's a normal guy in the sense that he's a walk-on. He's not supposed to make it. But if you work and you work hard enough and you put in the work, it can come to fruition, man. And he fast forward to during the season, like I just mentioned, those plays that he made, those sensational plays, just to name a few from the handful that he's created out there. That you see it during the offseason, all right, and you can easily say, look, this cat just like to work hard. All right, that's what's going to come of it. And then you're on the field with him, he make those type of plays, and coincidentally he's saving your behind. It comes full circle, and you see like, all right, yeah, this guy is somebody I want to follow, man. And he was a captain for a reason. And I became a captain because I tried to follow him in doing a lot of things that he did, and that was demanding of your guys and trusting in yourself and trusting in what God is giving you to go out there and display, and that guys will follow if you're doing it the right way.
Yeah, and you mentioned you became a captain for the 2009 season, and did you really start taking over in a leadership role once that final game, the Sugar Bowl, was complete against Utah, getting ready for the fourth quarter program, all the offseason workouts? When did you really start to emerge in your eyes as a leader?
I never did. To me, it was more so just because it was me, Mike Johnson, and Rolando McClain. Rolando McClain was more so the vocal leader. Mike Johnson was just he was a stereotypical, and I mean that in a real good way, like, because he was on the offensive side of the ball. You had two dominant guys, more than two, but just as far as upperclassmen. And me and Rolando, you had two dominant guys on the defensive side of the ball, so you needed somebody on the offensive side. And what better guy than the one of the leaders on the offensive line that was protecting Greg McElroy, that was helping Mark Ingram, rush for Heisman. What better guy than Mike Johnson? But me, I led by example. It wasn't me saying, "Come on, guys, let's go. We got to tighten up, or we got to do this." That was Rolando. Me, I was the guy every day at practice, sprinting from flex or stretching drills to individual drills, being the same person every single day. And it meant more because, again, I'm a small guy. I'm the smallest guy on the field. Like, why am I doing it? And now they feel like if he's doing it, we have to do it. So I didn't realize that I was a leader, to answer your question. I was just going out there and I was being me and doing me. And a lot of people just followed just because of my mentality.
There are a lot of memorable moments from the 2009 season. In the regular season, really, everybody looks back at the third Saturday in October, the Tennessee game, and, of course, Rocky block. And I think a lot of credit, of course, goes to Mount Cody for the way he was able to block his second kick of the day. But just tell me about that play from your perspective, because weren't you on the outside? You had a pretty good chance to block the kick as well.
Yeah, I can add context to that photo for you. All right, so next time you look at that photo, you just picture us being in the huddle before the play. And Rolando saying, we weren't talking about the name of the block, like overload right or whatever the case, max block. We weren't talking about that. What he said in the huddle was, when we go back and we look at this tape, if I see one of y'all not selling out, excuse my French, I won't say it, but I'm gonna kick you. And so next time you look at that picture, you see us all selling out. It's just because he demanded it out of us. Yeah, we wanted it, of course. Coaches wanted it by way of personnel, putting Julio in there, having Terrence Cody push the middle, having Rolando in the middle, having guys like me and Kareem on the outside and Justin Woodall on the outside. I can name them all. So everyone did their part, is what I'm trying to say. But Rolando told us verbatim, he said, when we look at this tape, if I see one of y'all not selling out, it's going to be a problem. And so everybody just diving, laying out, sacrificing. But yeah.
Oh, it was a pretty good moment. And what was the celebration like? Everyone remembers the image of Cody streaking down the field without his helmet on. What were you doing in that time?
I was trying to recover from a concussion because I collided with Kareem from the other side.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So I had to come to for a second and obviously realized what happened. It was unreal because we were sitting in the huddle before the snap. Do you remember how long that field goal was? I think it was like 30-something yards. Early 40s, like 41 or 43 at the very, very most. The guy was supposed to make the field goal. So, before Rolando said what he said, I'm sitting here like, this is it. Like, we got to sit and watch this thing go in. Or we can try to do something about it. And after the play, after we all kind of sold out and not knowing what happened and realizing that we won, you just can't help but to think that it's meant to be.
Well, and you guys after that, that was one of the games we had on the radio as well, and we interviewed Mike Johnson about that game, and he and Greg McElroy kind of said the same thing. This football team needed a break after that ball game, but you have the bye week and you come back against LSU, and that was maybe an overlooked game when people look back at that season, but you guys made a statement against LSU that year.
Yeah, we did, and I think we knew after that Tennessee game that don't go up and down with what happens in the game. Don't get too high, don't get too low. Just play our ball. Our ball is good enough. All right, the chips will fall. You know how they say let the chips fall where they may. Yeah. Go out there and do your thing. Well, we felt like the chips were supposed to fall the right way if we went out there and did our job, and we did. So I think the long short of it is it developed comfort for a lot of us to go out there and just do what we do. Don't try to do too much because us doing our job, me going out there and trusting in my ability to return punch to get it done. Julio going out there trusting in his ability to catch passes to get it done. Greg knowing exactly what he's capable of, trusting in that. Don't go out there and try to be Broadway Joe. That can get it done, and we did that comfortably. So I think that's what you saw the LSU game after the Tennessee game.
And to cap the regular season, had to go down to Auburn, and we had the great story from Greg before about the traffic jam you guys got in on your way to the stadium. How much does that kind of throw off your normal game prep, and especially for Coach Saban, who has everything scheduled by the minute, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, it was, it's funny you bring that up because as an analyst now, every time we driving down there, I'm like, we gonna get stuck in traffic again? It's just like the norm. But yeah, it was. I can vaguely recall that. I was just, me personally, I was antsy. I was like, no, let's get here. Let's go. So I think when we ultimately got there, I can't speak for everybody else on that team, man, but I can tell you when we finally got there, it made me I was more ready to go. Now, granted, when we got there, we started that football game. It didn't seem like we were ready to go because of what they were doing, all the unorthodox things that they were doing on offense. But just sitting in that traffic jam and kind of like, this has never happened before. All right, come on, let's go now. Let's go. That was my feeling. That's how I felt, and that's what I can recall from that. And at the aftershock as well, thinking that'll always happen going back to Auburn.
You always feel like it's right there. Yeah, and the offense has that great drive, and it ends with the McElroy to Upchurch touchdown pass. But I think a lot of people think, the game just ended there. But when you go back and look, Auburn had a few chances to go deep, a Hail Mary chance. What do you remember about those final plays for you guys on defense to seal the win?
Yeah, I tell you what I do remember is knocking the ball down. I-4D check jump ball is the play that kind of ultimately ended it, but we still practice that play to this day, right? And if one of the guys at practice hit the ball up opposed to knocking it down, obviously if you hit it up, you give the Auburn, in that sense, the opportunity to catch the ball and have a game winner. But if you do that in practice, to this day, Coach Saban loses his stuff. And I used to always wonder, like, Coach, man, just relax. Like, it's practice. It's just the last play. We're practicing it. We're batting it. Bat it down. Well, that epitomizes why he is the way he is about little things. All right, because I remember Justin Westall distinctively knocking it down, and that being the best feeling in the world. I'm like, yeah. So that's why we practice it. Yeah.
Really great moment. And then a week later, you guys are back in Atlanta, back against the Florida Gators, and you mentioned Tim Tebow. And Greg McElroy really did a nice job talking about the game plan, especially the offense had. Everything was working to a T. How was things feeling for you guys on the defensive side of the ball in that game?
I felt like we had a good game plan. We implemented a coverage on defense that we still run to this day, coverage called 6-stay. So, our nickelback, we call him our star. If his guy goes in motion across the ball, goes in rocket motion for the most part, the nickelback doesn't travel with that guy. Because Florida was using Percy Harvins and Demps to get us going in one direction and coming back, pulling with the Pouncey twins, and where that rocket guy just came from. And it was creating a lot of issues for us the year before, and we had a new coverage going in. So we felt good about that. And on top of that, it wasn't going to happen again. Even if we did, we felt like even if we didn't have a call schematically to stop them, they weren't going to win again. It would be a street fight. We felt good defensively, and we know the offense felt real well, man, understanding what they were capable of.
Well, such a great night for the Crimson Tide, winning the SEC championship, getting that revenge against Florida. Now you guys had a little bit of time to get ready to go out to California to the Rose Bowl to play Texas in the BCS championship game. Again, the game broadcast from the Crimson Tide Sports Network will be heard on the radio across the state coming up on Saturday. It's available now in podcast form on RolledTide.com. How were you guys feeling getting ready for that ball game, knowing what was on the line, trying to get Alabama's first national championship since 1992?
Yeah, I mean, I think we felt good. I think we were trying to get our feet gathered underneath us, just because it was unfamiliar territory for all of us on that team. We had never been to a national championship, so it was kind of taking it all in. At the same time, making sure that we were ready to play. I think Coach Saban did the necessary things to make sure that we were ready to play. And when the game came, we didn't go into that game with a whole bunch of feelings from anything prior, because we didn't play against Texas. It was just a little trash talk here and there. That's all we had to hang our hat on in terms of going in there with a mean on and wanting to get at these guys. But so it's almost like when the game first started, we had to find our footing. Like, all right, it's not that bad. We haven't played against these guys before, but we could play with them. You know what I mean? And once we got the rolling a little bit, and Marcel hurt Colt McCoy, it was it's like punching a guy and hitting him in his eye, and his eye swole shut. All right, now let's go knock him out now.
Yeah, what changed the most when Colt McCoy went out with the injury? Garrett Gilbert comes in, and he had a tough time kind of finding his rhythm early on, and you were a part of that. Your first interception in the game helped Alabama when it was 14-6. But just what changed for them? Anything different on offense?
Well, Colt wasn't in long enough for us to see what they were trying to do. A lot of teams for the first play, like 15 plays of the game, that might not be what they're doing the rest of the game. They might just trying to get a feel for how you respond to certain things to see what direction they're going to go as far as the rest of the game and attacking you. So I wasn't able to see a lot of things. They ran the ball a lot. Like on that particular play, it was I think 3rd and short, maybe 4th and short. He tried to sneak the ball, so you couldn't really tell. So, but when Gilbert came in, they threw the ball a lot more. I felt like they thought, even though they wasn't that far behind, that they were going to be behind soon. Not having their go-to guy in at quarterback. So I think they were just kind of playing from behind and throwing the ball a lot more. So just throwing the ball is what changed. But who knows? That could have been a game plan for Colt. If he stayed in, because again, he was just in for a short while. I think just a little bit of the first quarter, and it was hard to see what they were trying to get done with him.
Well, you had 2 interceptions, as I mentioned. Just can you talk us through those 2 plays? The first one, when it was 14-6, helped lead to another field goal for the Crimson Tide in the first half. And then the last one you had really helped seal the deal late.
Yeah. Well, the first one, I was cheating, to say the least. I just based off the formation that they were in, I knew what I was going to potentially get. And the play call that we were in was a man coverage, but I had Rolando in the middle, picking up. He was helping anybody who came across the middle. And so based off their formation, I knew they were running Panther, which is 2 slants. Right. So I was on the number 2 guy, and Kareem was on the number 1 guy. And when my guy broke to run his slant, I knew Rowe would be right there. So I took like a fake jab step to make the quarterback make Gilbert think that I was going with him, and fell right into the second window, to pick off that first slant route. Then the second one, I think he was just in over his head at that point, and he probably thought I was a Longhorn because he threw the ball right to me, and I was just sitting in cover 2.
It certainly was a good feeling, great feeling as well. And Greg just kneeled on the football. The ball game was over. Talk about the celebration you guys had, knowing you're the national champions and getting to be on that stage with the crystal ball.
Man, to me, I'm telling you, man, my perspective might be a little different. It was hard to believe. I don't know if it was my journey to get to Alabama. It didn't register, to be honest with you, man. It just didn't. And then after a while, I guess when I was out there, I remember Chris Rogers. He's from the same area that I'm from in Florida. He was like, "Yo, are we in Alabama? Are we at Alabama right now winning a national championship? Like, is this really happening?" And I mean, you work so hard, man, and you're so indulged in the day in and day out work that it takes to succeed, or to win a national championship, that you're like, you don't really recognize it. But it was a good feeling, man, to see the confetti fall. Then things start to hit you like this, the first time since '92. I don't know. We're out in California, and this is happening. We won one out here in California. But I tell you what, man. Now that I'm speaking about it, what does come back is, we earned this. We earned this during the off season, running those 110s, holding each other accountable. Yeah, we earned this. So it felt real good, man.
Well, that turned out to be the final game you played for the Crimson Tide. You were a second-round pick in 2010 by the Kansas City Chiefs, but still came back to Tuscaloosa in the offseason, and that included being in Tuscaloosa on April 27th, 2011, and you had just a harrowing tale of your time during the Tuscaloosa tornado. Just what do you remember about that day? And you were featured on Sports Illustrated later with your jersey on, surveying some of the damage in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, well, what I do remember about that day is, well, first and foremost, I didn't know that something that catastrophic can happen. Not here in Tuscaloosa. I didn't think the conditions here will ever get like that, you know. And I just remember being in my house, and I had a townhome across the street from the mall at the time, and sitting in my home watching the live broadcast, and him saying that it touched down on the other side of Interstate 82, right? And I felt like I had plenty of time to kind of open my door, see what was actually going on, and diagnose to see what I really needed to do. And when I did open my door, I told you that it was on the other side of Interstate 82, just about to cross. Well, when I opened my door, I could feel wind gusts come from that far away, and my door slammed back shut. I opened it again, thinking like maybe I can get in my car and get out of Dodge. Didn't trust that, so I just got in my tub. Didn't put a mattress over my head. Just kind of sat in the tub, and I'm like, all right, it's going just sitting in here. You know, it looks like it's coming in this direction, but maybe it'll miss me. And man, probably 3 minutes later, I think the best description is freight train. The best description. And as it starts and as it gets to going, I'm like, oh, this is happening. And then at that moment, right in the middle of it, I remember the feeling. It was, I can do nothing about this right now. There's nothing I can do about this right now. And that's a scary feeling. That knowing it, you know, because you know, in the career that I was in, that I'm in, you can control what you can control, you know, and that gets you a lot, right? You know, you work hard to get drafted, you work hard to have success. None of that, man. Not in this moment right here, you know. And it just, you know, to me, it brought me closer to God. Just understanding, look, man, you got to put your faith elsewhere. You can't get it all done. You can't do it all yourself. Yeah, it was a scary moment, man. So I drove up to Kansas City right after that. I think I got just under $1,000 worth of supplies, man, whatever I could do, and drove them right back down here. Drove them right back down and gave them away.
Yeah, we're certainly thankful you did that. And of course, you had an experience that a lot of people had that terrible day in Tuscaloosa. But just thank you for the hard work you're able to do right after that, helping Tuscaloosa rebuild. And, you know, now as we sit in April of 2020, does it feel like it's been that long since the 2009 season? I know you guys just had the 10-year reunion, got recognized before a game this past fall at Bryant-Denny Stadium. But did that day kind of make it sink in like, yeah, it's actually been 10 years?
Yeah, it has. It felt like it's been 10 years just because, I don't know. It just, I know why, because I'm with these guys. I'm an analyst now, and I'm around these young guys every single day, and I'm smacked in the face, and not in a bad way, but with how times have changed. You know, look at the draft yesterday. It was a virtual draft. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm reminded every single day. So I'm like, yeah, it's been that long. But that's okay though, you know, and you know, you're part of history, and you know, I'm in a position to help and teach these guys from some of my experience, so I'm thankful for that.
Well, we're also glad you're part of the Alabama football program once again. And just final question, how much have you enjoyed your role as an analyst and getting to be part of the next wave of success for the Crimson Tide?
I love it. I'm very grateful. I tell you what, it has its ups and its downs just because of what goes in to especially for a former player, you know, what goes into it, you know, making that transition from playing, being a player, and to being a coach, and having to prove to the greatest football coach in college football that, look, coach, I ain't a player no more. I'm a coach, and I can do this. I'm very capable. So it's been tough, but you know, I'm reminded that I will never get an experience like this anywhere else. It can't. Nowhere else can mimic this experience, being around Coach Saban, being around such a powerhouse, you know, like this here at Alabama. I'm seeing it from the other side, and I'm seeing what it takes to be this successful, and I'm very, very grateful.
Javier Arenas, thank you for joining us, man. Roll Tide, and again, great to catch up about the 2010 BCS title game against Texas and your other Crimson Tide memories. Just thank you for your time. Roll Tide, buddy.
I appreciate you having me, man. Thank you, Roll Tide.
All right, that's Javier Arenas, the next guest as part of our Radio Classics interviews. We certainly thank him for his time. We'll have another one of these interviews coming up next week, getting ready for another BCS title game, 2011 victory over LSU. I guess it was played in 2012, but yes, the 2011 season ended in a national championship for the Crimson Tide, and we should have a very special guest coming up for that next Friday. We'll have some other guests coming up as well with some more episodes of Quarantine Q&A as well. But this has been the Radio Classics interview, And that's always brought to you by Alabama One Credit Union. They've been voted Tuscaloosa's best credit union and mortgage lender. Alabama One offers low-rate auto, mortgage, and business loans, plus protection for it all with Alabama One Insurance. Visit any of their 9 local branches or check them out online at alabama1.org. Alabama One, proud supporter of Crimson Tide Athletics. For everybody with the Crimson Tide Sports Network, this is Roger Hoover saying have a safe weekend. Make sure you stay safe and healthy over the weekend. We look forward to catching up with you next week right back here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network.